It always pays to respect your elders, especially when they are made of steel and fundamentally change the face of warfare forever. Meet the father of modern tanks, the tiny Renault FT. While it may resemble a simple tin can on tracks compared to the armored giants we see today, this pint-sized pioneer introduced revolutionary features that would dominate tank design for the next century. Born from the brutal stalemate of World War I, when the Western Front transformed into a gruesome tableau of trenches, machine guns and barbed wire, this little fighter was poised to disrupt the norm. Picture the battlefield in 1916, a hellscape of mud and blood, where both sides were desperate for a breakthrough. The first tanks were clunky metal beasts, both the British tanks and France. Schneider CO1 were essentially large armored fortresses intended to crush obstacles and lead infantry into the chaos of no man's land. But Colonel Jean-Baptiste Estienne had a different vision. What if, instead of a few massive tanks, we created numerous smaller ones, overwhelming the enemy like a swarm? Against a backdrop of military bureaucracy and red tape, Estienne sought to bring his groundbreaking idea to life. With the cooperation of French automotive magnate Louis Renault, the Renault FT would emerge as a revolutionary force heralding a new era of armored warfare. Let's explore how this seemingly small innovation would leave an indelible mark on tank history. In 1916, as the world grappled with the horrors of World War I, the Western Front transformed into a nightmarish landscape of mud, blood, and futile warfare. Both German and Allied forces were desperate to break the stalemate. The first tanks, lumbering giants like Britain's rhombus-shaped behemoths and France's Schneider CO1, were rolling onto battlefields. These armored behemoths were designed to act as mobile fortresses, bulldozing through barbed wire and enabling infantry to cross the deadly expanse of no man's land. However, Colonel Jean-Baptiste Estienne, a French artillery officer with a vision for change, had a different plan. What if they could field a large number of smaller tanks? By utilizing a swarm of smaller vehicles, the French could create chaos among enemy lines at a lower cost. He presented this revolutionary idea to Louis Renault, who was intrigued enough to build a wooden mock-up by October 1916. Unfortunately, the project hit a wall in bureaucratic red tape as military leaders remained insistent on their massive land battleships. Only after a whirlwind of changes in French political and military command did the first prototype finally get evaluated in January 1917. Though orders for 150 units were placed in February, production stalled, demanding more testing and further delays. By September 1917, almost a year after its initial conception, production finally began in earnest. The vehicle emerged as the Renault FT, a name with no romantic significance. It was simply the next available combination in the company's internal naming system. Some myths suggest the FT stands for franchisee or facon, but these are mere fables. Sometimes referred to as the FT-17 for its introduction year, this designation was not officially recognized until after the war. By modern standards, the Renault FT might seem comically small, a true chihuahua in the tank world. It tipped the scales at just 7.3 tons, stood barely 7 feet tall, and extended a modest 11.5 feet long. If you included its trench-crossing tail, you reach 16.5 feet. Its width at just over 5.5 feet was narrower than most SUVs today. You could easily fit 3 of these tanks into a standard garage. Armament-wise, there were 2 variants of the Renault FT. The male version was equipped with a Puto SA 37mm gun, while the female tank came fitted with an 8mm Hotchkiss M1909 machine gun. While this armament may seem underwhelming compared to other tanks, the Renault FT came with a game-changing feature. Its weapons were mounted in a fully rotating turret, granting it a 360-degree firing arc. This was the first instance of such a turret design on a tracked vehicle, setting a standard that every tank would follow since then. Unlike other World War I tanks that required crews like a basketball team, the Renault FT operated with just 2 brave souls, a driver and a commander who also managed the turret. As comfortable as an armored suit in a tiny phone booth during a heat wave, its efficiency more than made up for the cramped conditions. The Renault FT was protected by steel plates ranging from 8mm thick on its hull to 22 millimeters on the turret. This allowed the tank to shrug off small arms fire effectively. However, a direct hit from artillery could turn it into a very expensive coffin, a risk that all tank operators would have to consider. Another innovation pioneered by the Renault FT was its rear-mounted engine. A Renault four-cylinder powerhouse producing a modest 35 horsepower. Although that's less power than many modern lawnmowers, this engine pushed the tank to a blistering speed of around 5 to 8 kilometers per hour, while pedestrians could outpace it. This still qualified as rapid movement by tank standards during 1917. The operational range of about 22 miles was sufficient for its primary role of supporting infantry. Once production truly began, the Renault FT became what can only be described as the Model T of tanks, a game-changer in terms of quantity. Around 3,700 units rolled off the production lines by the war's end, making it the most mass-produced tank of World War I. In comparison, the British manufactured only about 400 Mark V tanks, while the Germans produced a scant 20 A7 VS. The Renault FT was winning not just on the innovation front but in sheer numbers as well. As the concept of the tank evolved, various variants surfaced, including command versions on FT-75, BS with a howitzer, and anti-tank configurations with larger armaments. It was as if the evolution of tank design was happening in fast forward. The Renault FT became the iPhone of the tank world. Everyone wanted one. When production couldn't keep up with the demand, other manufacturers, including American factories, stepped in. They produced a modified version called the M1917 while still providing tanks for France. Allied nations, including Britain, Italy, Belgium, Russia, and the United States, received shipments. After the war, localized variants spread globally, impacting militaries in Finland, Japan, and beyond, making it history's first truly global tank platform. The Renault FT's first major action took place on May 31, 1980, during the Battle of Chazelle. 31 tanks supported a French counteroffensive, successfully routing a German division at the cost of just 5 vehicles. These tanks employed swarm tactics, overwhelming enemy forces with their numbers. Their small size and low profile made them harder to target, ensuring that enemy fire often focused on the tanks rather than the infantry they supported, who benefited greatly from their deployment. While early models did face mechanical issues, the French response was overwhelmingly positive. They prepared large numbers for a planned spring 1919 offensive that never materialized due to the war's conclusion. Following the conflict, many countries built their armored forces around the Renault FT, which saw action in the Polish-Soviet War and the Spanish Civil War. Remarkably, some were still in service when World War II erupted in 1939, albeit vastly outclassed by more modern tanks. When Germany invaded France, captured, Renault FTS were repurposed for use by the Vichy French forces or the Wehrmacht for occupation duties and training programs. The Renault FT began as a solution to a critical problem: how to cross no man's land without succumbing to the slaughter. What emerged was a truly revolutionary vehicle whose design principles continue to inform modern tank construction. Its rotating turret, rear-mounted engine, and small crew compartment established a design template followed by tank designers for over a century. While this tiny ancestor may lack the imposing firepower of today's armored vehicles, its legacy looms large in tank history. Sometimes, the most significant innovations come in the smallest packages, and the Renault FT exemplified how a humble approach could pave the way for monumental change in the world of armored warfare.